The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, UNU Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
What's going on, everybody? You are tuned into Armed Radio. It is Tuesday night, and that means you are listening to 2AT Second Amendment Talk. I am Daniel Sanders, and joining me is Rod Burks. Rod, how's it going this evening?
Man, I'm as happy as a puppy with two peckers.
Happy as a puppy with two peckers. I don't think I've ever heard that expression before in my entire life.
But you know I'm happy.
Absolutely. What would you even do with two peckers?
Everything.
I mean, that would just be a lot of work.
Double the pleasure, double the fun.
Yeah, I reckon so. So like we always do at the start
of every... damn near killed them both.
Oh, man. So like we always do at the start of every show here, we want to give a big shout out to the troops, to the men and women serving overseas and on the home front. We appreciate everything y'all are doing for us. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. We're all rooting for you here back home. It's been a minute since we've done a show. It has been a long minute. Corona has kicked the shit out of my household.
Well, I'm glad you're back on the air. I did kind of miss you a little bit.
Only a little bit?
Yes.
Oh, man. So what's been going on out that way? We need to get caught up on some things.
Right. Well, you know, the reason for my exuberance is that two monumental events have occurred, which tell me, well, hey, there's got to be more on the horizon. First was my sub finally came out of ATF jail. And the funny thing is that it had been out of jail for about 2 months. And it wasn't until I just called and followed up that they're like, yeah, dude, your suppressor's been ready. We sent you a message, and apparently they dialed the wrong number or something. Anyway, so I finally got my my dead air Sandman K, and I definitely want to talk about that on the show. And I've got my deer tags for the great state of South Carolina. Season opens up Saturday, so you know, Youth Day was last Saturday, and you know, so I took the my stepson out, and you know, we didn't see anything, but we had a good time, you know, exercising safety and talking about you know, being responsible hunters and making sure that you get humane kill and you know, all those little nuances that you can tell them, but it doesn't really I don't think it really sinks in until they've got a rifle in their hand and you're where the rubber meets the road.
Oh, excellent. Well, let's we'll start off with the suppressor. Tell us a little bit about that. How much play time have you had with it so far?
Okay, so yeah, I got it on I believe Saturday. So I've 3 days. I picked it up, and I didn't get much time with it on Saturday because I had bought it in a different county where I used to live. And since then I'd moved, so it's a couple hours away. So I go down there, I pick it up, come home after spending the day with the family there in the beach, and I throw it on. And the first thing I notice is that it's got a 3-lug system. Now I've got a 3-lug on another suppressor of mine, and if it's not twisted just right, with maximum tension on the spring to hold it in the locked position, it can work itself off. Bullet strike on this swipe, the opening at the very tip on the exit end
right.
of the suppressor. I've got a bullet strike from the three lug working itself loose whenever I'm getting happy on the trigger. What's different about this one that I just got, the Dead Air Sandman K, is that it ratchets to put tension on it, and then it's got a tab stop, so you know that you've got maximum tension on it, and that three lug is not going to move or work its way off, no matter how much you're shooting.
Interesting. Now, which weapon system did you purchase this for primarily?
Primarily, it's for my AR-10. So I've got this AR-10 that I have. I've kind of made it my because I've put the night vision, and I've got a tripod because the thing is so heavy now. That I was like, let me get this suppressor for it, and the reason I choose to use a suppressor is because like condoms, I don't like to wear extra protection that I don't need to. Right. So the suppressor allows me to shoot without having big earmuffs on that interfere with my cheek weld whenever I'm trying to get a good sight alignment sight picture. So that's why I use a suppressor, and this suppressor does not make it silent. For anybody out there that has watched TV but has never actually used or practiced with a suppressor, they don't make it silent unless you've got a 22 using subsonic rounds. Very silent. The loudest thing with that setup would be the sound of the hammer falling onto the firing. The report is still quite loud, but it's not painful to the ear. So it's not like I said, it's louder than somebody maybe slamming the hood on their car, but it's not so loud that instantly regret not having ear protection the second you pull the trigger.
Right. Yeah, I made the mistake one time. I had a Howa Axiom bolt action 308, and I made the mistake one time of shooting it without hearing protection in a prone position with a covered awning over my head. Yeah. I did not...
That only happened once, didn't it?
Yeah. It happened one time, and then once... The best way I could describe it is it was almost like a stun grenade had gone off. I was actually disoriented. And once I was able to regain myself about 15 seconds later, I immediately grabbed my Ear Pro and put it back on.
Yes, and that's what the beauty of suppressors is that I think it's it's very courteous, especially if you live with neighbors that are closer than maybe a mile or two. It's I don't know. I just think it's it's the gentlemanly thing to do, and part of the reason why I bought this suppressor because my local gun store that I bought the suppressor from, they were doing a Black Friday sale, so they had one of those 20-sided die. And so you picked up all your purchases, right? Everything you wanted to buy, and you put it on the counter before you rolled the die. So you couldn't, roll the die, get 20, and then buy one of everything in the store. So they I was like, you know what? I need a suppressor. I think that's when I bought my 5.7 and a whole bunch of ammunition, and I ended up rolling like a 17. So I got 17% off of my purchase, which was huge. And the reason I chose that suppressor also was because they were basically paying your tax stamp for you. So it was $200 off just because it was that suppressor, not because of what the store was doing. So I really got this suppressor for pennies on the dollar. Maybe not pennies, maybe dimes, but it was I think it was a good purchase. For anybody out there that's looking to be like some kung fu sniper, swift, silent, deadly, this is not your can. Okay. Sonic rounds. I have not yet put it on my 300 Blackout. But I anticipate positive results on there too. But I'll be more than happy to update our listeners with that information as it's available.
Now, what other platforms do you have that you'll be able to use this on? I know it's not just specifically for the AR-10.
No. Well, it's really about the threads that are on the flash hider,
Right?
because you have to have, and from what I understand, they have different thread pitches for different flash hiders. Or if you want the same flash hider for different platforms, so you don't have to take it off if you want to change the suppressor from one to the other, which is pretty typical. Whenever you buy a suppressor, they have some kind of mount that's designed for their can. So in my arsenal, of course, my 300 blackout, I have a SOCOM 16, which is basically a M1A, and I'm trying to think of what else it would fit on. Basically anything 7.62 or smaller.
Okay, so then this has the same thread pattern that would work on just a standard AR-15 then.
I don't think so. I think the AR-15 is a little different. And I don't make a liar out of me on the radio. The muzzle brake that I have is a 5/8 by 24. I'm not sure what. I mean, because different barrels come with different. Let me see what the AR-15 thread pitch is. Right. So the thread pitch for let's see, for 22s is a half by 28, 9 millimeters, 5.56, 223 ARs is usually a half by 36. So this will not fit on your typical AR without buying the specific muzzle brake.
Right.
I don't know if yeah. So I think I answered your question, but yeah, it'll fit a SCAR. It'll fit your 30 caliber type thread pitches. It may even fit some handguns, but the problem with putting it on a handgun is it doesn't come with the piston, a little spring loaded thing that allows your gun to if it uses Browning action, and I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence, but Browning action is what the barrel does on a lot of semi-automatic pistols, in that it actually tips down in the rear whenever the slide starts to move rearward. So the pointy end of the barrel actually tips up, and that is called Browning action. And it was first introduced on the Colt 1911, from what I've read.
I was going to say,
not like the 5.7.
I was going to say that's. I've seen 1911s have that action. I want to say a lot of Walther pistols.
Well, the M9s that we had in the Marine Corps, most of the Springfield, well, at least all of the Springfield pistols I have use Browning action. My SIGs do, that I'm aware of off the top of my head, and that the Ruger Mark IV 22 caliber and the FN57. They're just a straight, I guess, blowback design. It doesn't the barrel doesn't tip down to ease the chambering of the next round.
Right. Okay, so now you were also saying you just got your deer tags. So tell us about because I'll be honest, I'm dirt dumb when it comes to hunting. I am not a hunter. I don't bow hunt.
Well, yeah, really hunting is about being out in nature, and I mean, for as many times as I've hunted, I have a really embarrassing kill count. So if you know you're a video gamer and you're all about being number one and having the most kills, yeah, may seem really boring to you. I enjoy it. One, for being out in nature and kind of alone with your thoughts, and I found it to be really beneficial in trying to bond with my stepson. In South Carolina last Saturday, they had the youth hunt day. So anybody 17 and under can hunt. They don't need a license. If they've had the hunter safety course, then they can hunt on their own. Otherwise, they have to be accompanied by somebody that's 21 years or older. So he had not had the hunter safety course. I mean, he's 8. So I wouldn't send him out into the woods with a rifle this early anyway. But my point is that they're inquisitive. He had a lot of good questions about hunting. And hey, where do you shoot deer? I mean, and really it depends. Are you looking for a trophy to mount on the wall, or are you trying to fill your freezer? And he said, well, I'm trying to fill my freezer. I was like, well, then, take the headshot, because that way you get the most meat, right? If you're trying to put something on the wall, shoot him in the heart. And of course he asked me, well, where's the heart? And so, he's learned a little bit of anatomy. And he's learning the importance of getting those humane kills, because you don't want the animal to suffer, right? As a responsible hunter, you have an obligation,
right,
to know what the hell you're doing, right? You're not just out there trying to fill innocent animals full of holes for your own sport. You're out there to, for a purpose. And that purpose is to put food in your freezer, or maybe you're a game collector, whatever. I am the latter, I guess, yeah, the first one. I'm just trying to put food in the freezer. But so it was a great bonding experience for us. But so this week I also, because the youth day is always before in youth days. In South Carolina, before and after the opening and closing of the season. So South Carolina has one of the most liberal, and I use that word in the nicest, kindest, most generous ways possible, hunting seasons for deer of anywhere in the United States that I'm aware of, which goes from August 15th till January 1st. Now, August 15th to September 15th, it's only antlered bucks, and they have to be over 2 inches long to be considered antlers, and so on and so forth. But yes.
Now you didn't make your stepson drink the blood of his first kill, did you?
No, actually, we didn't see anything out there. But like I said, it gave us a chance to talk about things like ballistics, right? I'm just talking about external and terminal ballistics. Because, I'm teaching him gun safety without really telling him, hey, I'm going to teach you about gun safety. I'm talking about, hey, who lives that direction? And he's like, oh, well, those are our neighbors. I'm like, okay, so if you see a deer right there, are you going to shoot? And he's like, no. I'm like, but if you're in a deer stand and that bullet's traveling, in a downward direction, now you've increased, because the neighbors are more than half a mile away in that direction.
Right. So
elevating, so I'm teaching them like lines of fire and how to really think through your shot. Because if you've ever hunted, it's a rush. I mean, whether it's pigs, coyotes, or deer, or squirrel, birds, whatever it is you hunt, there is a rush whenever it comes time to pull the trigger, and it's easy to forget. I remember going duck hunting with a buddy of mine. He was my first mentor in the Marine Corps, actually. And we'd reconnected like some 10 years after we had last had contact. And he's like, hey, come out, let's go duck hunting. I'm like, yeah, sure, great. And sure enough, some ducks lock up and they're coming in. And I'm with my son at the time, my oldest son. And, he was a lot younger and I'm like, we're leveling the guns and we're getting ready to shoot. And I'm like, nope. We can't shoot because our buddies are on the other side of the lake in that direction. My buddy on the other side of the lake did not care as he opens up on the same group of ducks, and my son and I are diving for cover. Now, of course, it's birdshot, and we're far enough away it wouldn't have created any serious injuries. But I think it's important that, at least I know the people I've sure of your target and is beyond.
Right. And that's the thing about it. I've seen this I've seen this picture of this little girl, and she's holding an AR-15 and she's pointing at a target, but the problem is the target is on a fence in her backyard, and 15, 20 yards on the other side of the fence is their neighbor's house. And she's sighting in on this target. And so, just fuck that fence and whatever's on the other side of it, because she's only 5 yards away from the target.
Well, okay, so here is because a picture is just a snapshot, right? You don't know.
Right.
Maybe they're teaching her to keep it pointed in a safe direction, and they're trying to teach her the basic operation of the firearm without any ammunition, right? And you're right. Yeah, it does look somewhat suspicious that, like, hey, what idiot would do this? But I think considering the circumstances, maybe it was the best option they had available to them at that time. Or actually shooting through the fence.
Possibly, but I still have that Marine Corps mindset of train how you fight, so on and so forth. So even in a dry fire situation where I'm just showing somebody, I'm just showing somebody how to properly load and action and so on and so forth, I've still got them in a safe environment. I have them always making sure of their muzzle awareness, and I always have them making sure of what's downrange and what's past downrange.
True, but have you seen Marines snapping in on a barrel in a 360 degree circle?
Yeah, it's I have, and it's definitely.
And you're not wrong. But I have seen it at the air station at Buford, and I was like, right. And I get it. It's you absolutely should be aware and always practice safety. And that's what I really appreciate about the kids at youth days. And I believe they also have disabled veteran hunt days and things like that. So I encourage anybody who's looking, maybe you've got some experience and you want to help out local, community, hey, check and see what you can do with your local DNR, and see if maybe you can't help, either with a youth day in a wildlife management area, or on the veteran, maybe you can help a vet up into a tree stand or something, or hand him his rifle after he gets up there, things like that. Even if you don't hunt, I think the camaraderie is well worth the time. It's time well spent.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Like I said, I'm not much of a hunter. I've never been hunting. The closest I've done going to hunting is going fishing. And for me, going fishing is a lot like going golf. I'm not going for the sport of fishing or for the sport of golf. I'm going because I want to drink and hang out with my buddies, and it gives us something to do while we're doing that. Hunting, I've seen a lot of people do that exact same thing, going duck hunting, or they'll sit in a blind going deer hunting or turkey hunting, and they will get hammered off of their friggin' asses. That, I take a little bit of issue with that. I am a very safe, wise individual when it comes to firearms. And the idea of being around,
yeah, as you should be, right? I mean, you've been trained.
Yeah, and the idea of being around somebody who is liquored up and going hunting, you know what? I'll stand behind you.
Yeah, and you know what though, you can't fix stupid.
You can't fix stupid, but we can sure roast the shit out of it. And that's exactly what we're about to do. We've talked about it a couple of times on my other show, Two Beards Talking, with me and Matt. NFAC, the non-firing ass citizens, the whatever you want to call them. I'm blown away. Grandmaster Jay, the leader of the NFAC. They were in Louisville. They were protesting the Breonna Taylor incident with the no-knock warrant, and apparently one of their members had a negligent discharge, and a total of 3 people from NFAC wound up being wounded. Now, the initial reports that we got were this member had a lever-action rifle. I don't understand how 3 people could be wounded with one negligent discharge from a lever-action rifle. Now, supposedly, he had an AR-15, and the way it appears from the video, round may have impacted the ground. I think he may have actually shot himself in the foot, and, maybe some shrapnel from the pavement splashed up and hit these other 2 people in the legs. I don't know. But Grandmaster Jay came out and released a video shortly after, talking about what happened and how highly trained these individuals are, and this was a negligent discharge. And he pulls out this rifle. It's an AR platform. And what was she saying?
And she said, "Get off my boobs."
Oh, okay. So he pulls out this AR platform.
I don't know what I think there was a cricket or a frog or something. I'm not sure what she was referring to. But sorry, yeah. Pardon the interruption.
No, it's fine. So he's got this AR platform. It's got a fixed stock. It's got a 22-inch barrel. It looks like an M16. He calls it an XR-15. Now, there is a company...
For extra rifle.
Yeah, apparently. There is a company out there called Saber Defense. They do make a rifle called an XR-15. It's just another AR-15 variant is all it is. It's no different, just has a different designation on it. But he called it a...
It's kind of like the PSA-15, right? The Meadow State Armory 15?
Yes.
I mean, it's still an AR-15, but they just called it the PSA-15, right? Okay,
right.
Got it.
Yeah. So he calls it an XR-15, and then he calls it a bullpup. Now,
well, I've never seen one of those.
Yeah, I've never in my entire life. Now, granted, I didn't know jack shit about firearms before I joined the military, so I learned quite a bit from good old Uncle Sam, and a lot I've learned after I left the military. I have never in my entire life seen an AR platform run from a bullpup configuration. I've never seen one even be able to be converted into a bullpup configuration ever in my entire life.
Yeah, I don't think A.R. Stoner ever intended for his rifle to be a bullpup. Correct me if I'm wrong or whatever. Either goes behind the grip or on top of the gun, as is the case of the PS90, right? I mean, correct me, that's a bullpup, right?
Well, a bullpup configuration, if you look at an AR-15, you have the muzzle, the forend, the magazine, the trigger, the pistol grip, the stock. On a bullpup configuration, you have the muzzle, the forend, the trigger, the pistol grip, the magazine, the stock. So the magazine actually goes in behind the action on a bullpup configuration.
Or on top, right? Like with the PS90, right?
I don't know if they actually refer to the P90 as a bullpup configuration. I mean, I guess it could, because even though it is a gravity-fed design, the magazine is still technically feeding the ammunition behind the action. So yeah, I guess it could still be considered that way. So then, by that token, if we are classifying that gravity-fed design as a bullpup, then yes, there is an AR platform that is chambered in 5.7 by 28 millimeter that uses P90 mags that actually feeds from that gravity feed system. But
yeah. Google says it's a bullpup design. So Google's never wrong. But I digress.
But the thing about it is you're altering the upper receiver to do that. You're not changing the lower receiver. The lower receiver is still magazine well, trigger, pistol grip, stock.
Right.
So, and he takes this rifle, this AR platform, he locks the bolt to the rear, and he's explaining that this is how the negligent discharge happened. He locks the bolt to the rear, he bumps the stock and sends the bolt home, mortaring the bolt home, whatever you want to call it. And then he says, this weapon just fired. I talked about this on my other show. I've only seen one time where someone chambered a round by sending the bolt home that way, and the round actually fired, and that was because the firing pin, retaining pin, and the bolt carrier group had deteriorated. And when the bolt slammed home, it caused the firing pin to slam forward and puncture the primer on the casing. So that was actually even though he was not technically properly chambering around, it still would not be a negligent discharge, because I think even if he had hit the magazine catch release, then when the bolt slammed home, it's still highly possible that the firing pin, retaining pin could have still broken and allowed the firing pin to slam forward. So in that particular case, I think it would be more classified as a mechanical failure of the firearm rather than a negligent discharge.
Well, and I've got to wonder, anytime somebody is negligent in anything they do, there are certain people who will do anything to, and these are the people that this is why there are redundant safeties and some nonsensical safeties on guns that aren't really necessary. Like, my Mark IV, if there's no magazine in the gun, it will not fire. Right. And I can't imagine, why would you engineer extra steps to interfere with the function of the firearm? And the only conclusion I can come to is it's probably a liability thing, right? Somebody was, there was no magazine, so I thought the gun was safe, right? And it reminds me of a story. I saw this in Kabul at the Chow Hall. We'd gotten in line, and the Chow Hall requires you to clear your firearm before entering the Chow Hall. And there was a Army lieutenant who took her rifle, stuck into the clearing barrel, clicked it off safe, and fired a round into the barrel. Boom! And she goes, "Oh crap!" She racks the charging handle to the rear, sticks it back into the clearing barrel. Boom! This is 2 rounds, right? And she's like, "Oh!" She takes the magazine out, puts the rifle in the clearing barrel. Boom! 3 rounds into a clearing barrel in a matter of seconds. I mean, but before somebody was finally took the rifle away from her, and so this is kind of the point to my story is that everything that doesn't make sense on a gun, that's supposed to be there to protect people, is because of people who are really ignorant, or shouldn't have their firearm. Like the one that the Army had adopted for a while as their service pistol, because if you drop it on the rear of the gun with a round in the chamber, it can go off and fire around. You know what the Marine Corps solution was? Don't drop your pistol.
Yeah, don't drop
Put a
the gun.
lanyard on it, right? Put a little dummy cord on it, so if it gets away from it, at least you got something you can slow it down. But I don't know. Maybe I'm being too giving too much credit to humankind and common sense.
Please tell me, going back to that story about that Army lieutenant, please tell me that was an enlisted person that came over and snatched the gun away from her.
Well, it was a Marine, and I'm 90% sure that it was enlisted. I mean, we didn't wear rank insignia or anything in our mission over there, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't somebody from my team, but it was definitely a Marine that snatched a rifle, and I believe handed it to her I don't know, sergeant first class or whoever, handed it to another enlisted. So
we were let's see, it was my first deployment, and I've actually got 2 deployment horror stories. I've told you one of them before about the Army guy that went same thing, going to the chow hall, went to the clearing barrel, put his barrel in, racked the bolt back, dropped the magazine, put it on fire, and fired a round in. And he couldn't figure out why he fired a round in when he just cleared it, because you didn't fucking clear it properly. The other one is she was a lieutenant junior grade. She was an O2 in the Navy. And they were doing a BZO out at our range on the FOB. And I noticed while she was shooting, she's shooting right-handed, but she's aiming with her left eye. And I asked her, I said, "Ma'am, are you left or right eye dominant?" And she says, "Well, I mean, I do everything left-handed except shoot." And she is all over the damn paper at 36 yards. So I said, "Why don't you try switching that weapon from your right shoulder to your left shoulder and see if that helps any?" And I kid you not, holding the rifle, right hand on the pistol grip, left hand on the forend, without switching her hands, pulls it out of her shoulder and then shoulders it on the left side of her body, still holding it right hand on the pistol grip, left hand on the forearm, on the forend.
She did exactly what you said.
I thought all of you officer types were supposed to be smart. I thought y'all were supposed to have, aside from book sense, also supposed to have common sense. Apparently, she missed that day in class.
Well, either that or she gave you too much credit. I don't know.
It just, I can't lump you in with all those people because you're a Mustang. You were enlisted at one point, so you do have common sense. I'm pretty sure she went the college route, straight out of high school and then straight out of college into OCS or whatever the case may be for her. But it worried me. Like, I just stood there and I thought to myself, should I let her shoot this way and see if it actually works? Or should I tell her how fucked up in the head she is? Fortunately,
what did you do?
Well, fortunately, I didn't have to do either. My battalion gunner saw it happen, and he came over and gave her a period of instruction.
Oh, yeah? And did she start shooting better after that?
Yes, she did. She was actually, she didn't have like a ideal grouping, but she was at least bringing it closer in to get. Now, instead of looking like she hit it with freaking bird shot from half a mile away, now it looked like she was using double-aught buck from about 50 yards away.
Oh, okay. So that's actually, not bad. Enough to qualify. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't trust her to guard my flank if we were out on patrol.
Well,
I'll rephrase. I won't say that I wouldn't trust her to guard my flank. I would just give her an instruction that says, if you see an enemy, then quickly yell out that you see an enemy before you start shooting.
Well, no, start shooting because hopefully the enemy won't know what you know. They'll put their head down and give you time to take action. So I mean, even who's a marksman, yeah, they have a place on the team and employ them, or put a saw in their hand.
If you're going to put rounds all over the paper, at least have a reason for it.
The coolest video I've ever seen. I think it was an Army video actually, and I'm not sure it was OIF or OEF, and there was a song, "Turned Down for What," and this guy just opens up with this saw down a fuck everybody in that general direction, and I'm like, yes. I subscribe to the machine gunner's philosophy. More hot lead in that general direction is better than that one shot, one kill. Unless of course you're hunting game animals.
Well, I remember when I first got to LAR, one of the corporals in my platoon was a machine gunner, and we were all learning how to do machine gunner stuff because he was one of our leaders. So we're learning now how to do dis and ass on the saw, dis and ass on the 240, headspace and timing on a 50 cal. We're learning all of that. And we were in the Ismet one day, and we had the 240s out in the Ismet. And I remember he yelled at me because the targets would pop up on screen, and I'd do my die, motherfucker, die, or run, fuzzy bunny, run, whichever one it was they taught us. And all of my, I wouldn't say it was a perfect, ideal, tight grouping, but all of my bursts were finding the target. And I remember before the class, he told us, these are area effect weapons. These are suppressive fire weapons. Well, like I said, I'm finding all the targets, and I'm putting all the rounds on the target. And then he's yelling at me as it's over. This is a suppressive fire weapon. It is not a direct point of fire weapon. I'm like, why are you yelling at me? He's dead. It doesn't matter. If I can take a dadgum 240 and put all of the rounds into, Haji's body or whatever, then by all means, I'm going to do it.
True. But the more you shoot, the less you've got to carry.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm also, I won't say I'm big on ammo conservation. I just think ahead to that. We just had a 3-minute firefight and expended, couple hundred rounds. Might want to save some ammo just in case they regroup and come back.
No, you're right. There is a balance between, fuck everybody in that general direction, and hey, I need to save some of this for the next fight. But that's why you have a cock diesel A gunner who's packing plenty of ammo cans.
No, that's why we went out on mounted patrols with LAVs and loaded all of our ammo into the LAVs. Are you still there, Rod? I think I may have lost you.
Yeah. No, we had a moment of silence there. And speaking of which, I don't know if I believe it was yesterday, the day before, they found the remains of the Marines that had perished in that training accident in California.
Yes,
of the 8 that passed away, the oldest was 23 years old, and I'm like, wow. There are times that I think about, is this generation, are they because I look at that list, and there are still young men and women who are willing to wear the cloth of our nation. And we've got to consider that just because we may not be involved in large scale conflict, that the training that Marines do is just as life threatening as actual combat. Every day there are Marines standing on top of rotor heads, turning wrenches, working around hydraulic lines with thousands of psi that could penetrate flesh. You know what I mean? So it's not. We talk about the bravado and pogue this or whatever, but yeah, no, it's absolutely, any loss of life is a tragedy, and
absolutely.
My heart goes out to the families and loved ones of those Marines.
Yeah, absolutely. I can recall, I think 2 or 3 different occasions from the time I got to Parris Island in 2009 until I left in 2012. I think 2 or 3 occasions where recruits died in training from basically just physical exertion. They had underlying causes that, got missed at the screening at MEPS, and, they'd be on a run somewhere and just fall out, and next thing you know, they were dead.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those recruits was actually in the same battalion while I was serving there.
Wait, say that again.
And the scenario you're talking about, I can't remember exactly. I think it was probably 2009, 2010. That it was a recruit from my battalion. It wasn't my company. But I remember we were driving out to Weapons Field Training Battalion, and I had a couple of the drill instructors with me. One of them was Macus, and we looked over, and he says, "Hey, man, they're pushing on that kid's chest." And it was actually another McQuist that was doing it, because I guess the corpsman that they had sent that was on duty that day was actually a dental tech and wasn't. How do I say this? Without mincing words, maybe he'd missed the class on CPR. I don't know, but that young man was, he ultimately perished. It was a result of a pre-existing condition. I mean, just imagine pushing yourself so hard that it ends your life. So that's much respect for the Marines, and the sailors and the airmen. And the soldiers.
Yeah.
That wear our nation's cloth. Yeah.
I recall a woman that lived across the hall from me at the apartment complex that I was in. She worked at Parris Island, and she was she was a civilian that worked in the separations office. And I remember I was talking with her one evening, and she was telling me about a recruit that was being discharged because I don't know how they missed this at all of the physical screenings that he went through, but they were doing a pre-crucible health screening and wound up doing a chest x-ray and found out he had stage 4 lung cancer. Oh, good Lord. Everything all right over there?
Oh, I think it's past some of the little crumb snatchers' bedtime.
Okay, I got you. Well, but yeah, it's very tragic that like you said, it's not just overseas. It's at home too. We've got kids that are dying in training. We've got recruiters that are being shot at while they're in the office. It's a very it's a very tragic set of circumstances, regardless of what the situation is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And speaking of which, this is the last thing that we'll cover, and this is actually still a developing story. Just happened earlier today. Trump was in the Brady Room of the White House giving a press briefing when he was suddenly escorted away by Secret Service. Apparently, there were shots fired right outside of the White House.
Oh, well, Washington, D.C. is a gun-free zone, isn't it?
Last time I checked, but I mean, Chicago, New York, all of those places that are gun-free zones.
Well,
but let's see if there's been any update on it. Excuse me. No, don't need any video on it. It says President Donald Trump abruptly evacuated the White House briefing room by security. Shots were fired outside the building. Trump returned to the briefing room minutes later, confirming a shooting. There was a shooting outside of the White House, and it seems to be very well under control. I'd like to thank the Secret Service for doing their always quick and very effective work, Trump said when he returned. Secret Service can confirm there has been an officer-involved shooting at 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue. Law enforcement officials are on the scene. So, yeah, that's a pretty serious situation. We're gonna have to. I'll be keeping a track on this to find out more information on it to discuss later on. But that's a pretty serious situation right there. I did.
Yeah. And I hope the officer is is well, healthy, and if not, hopefully they can recover.
Well, I did read one source that said Secret Service fired shots at a suspect who was later taken to a hospital. That is all the information that we have on it so far. Like I said, it's still a developing story, so as more of it comes out, we'll have more information to be able to give y'all on it. Did I lose you again, Rod?
No. I'm still here. I'm sorry.
No, I got you.
I think the weather is messing with my satellite comms.
I got you. Well, we got a couple of minutes left, so tell us real quick what your plans are for deer season. What have you got done so far to get prepared for it?
All right. Well, so just because I go hunting doesn't mean I'm a good hunter. But I'm happy to share my experiences. So what I've done is I bought a salt lick, or it's a mineral block. And it's it's about $15 and it probably weighs 25 pounds or so. And I guess you can make them yourself or whatnot, but it was at Tractor Supply, total impulse buy. So I buy this mineral block because I have a hummingbird feeder, and I figure, I put out the little sugar water, and the hummingbirds come around for days. So I figure, I'll get a little salt lick, and I bought a couple of bags of corn with ear deer corn, and they had this stuff called buck jam. Now, the reason I got buck jam and not one of the other like deer cane or any of the other many products is because this one was persimmon. Now, if you've ever seen deer around persimmon trees, it looks like a Christmas ornament. I mean, they like jump up on their back legs to get the fruit. They love persimmons. So I bought this buck jam that is persimmon flavored. And I poured all over the corn and let it dry, and then put the corn out in places that are, a little bit off of the deer trail, but it's still shaded. And if I'm in the right place at the right time, I'll be able to get a good shot. I'm using, and I know it's still summer, but I think if you, if you go out the day before you want to hunt and put out your bait, then you're probably not going to get good results. I mean, because deer, for being really dumb animals, sometimes they're actually pretty smart. Sometimes, meaning that if something changes or if they smell like human activity, they tend to go the other direction. But for some reason, if they see a van driving at 55 miles an hour with the bright lights and the horn blaring, they just stand there. So you've got to take what I say with a grain of salt. So if you're intentionally looking for deer, they're smart. If you're trying to avoid them, they're dumb.
Yeah, that's I agree with
that's my plan.
Yeah, I agree with the Ron White method of hunting. We need to slow bullets down to 55 miles an hour, put a pair of headlights on a horn on them, and the deer will actually jump in front of the bullet.
All right.
So that's all the time that we got.
Yes, excellent recall. That is where I got my analogy from.
But that's all the time that we got. We're going to have to start wrapping it up. Don't forget to go on Facebook and look up our page, 2AT Second Amendment Talk. Like us, follow us, interact with us. Let us know your thoughts on what we've been talking about. Also, be sure to look up Rod's page, 2A Training, and shoot him a message there. He'll be able to give you some good advice on stuff there. Again, a big shout out to the troops, to the men and women serving overseas and on the home front. We appreciate everything y'all are doing for us. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. We're all rooting for you here back home. This has been 2AT Second Amendment Talk right here on Armed Radio. I'm Daniel Sanders for Rod Burks. Thanks for listening, everybody.